Good morning, sixth graders. I am going to be talking about the intro to negatives today. Just some basic things. It should be quick and fun. So I did want to spend just a minute looking at our notebooks. Now, if you need to start a new notebook to stay organized for this marking period, please do that. I can help get you one if you need one. Now, your notebook, you shouldn't be skipping any pages. You should have started and gone. Remember, all of your notes should be dated just like I date them every day. And then your homework work can be done in between the pages as well. So all of your work should be in one place so that when you go to take one of the quizzes, you have all of your notes there. And believe it or not, some of those problems are probably right in your notebook. So it's really important that you stay organized. You don't just like skip around. Oh, today I'll go way back here a few pages and here a few pages. No, let's stick to this chronological order without skipping pages and staying nice and neat. All right, so intro to negatives. First, you should be very familiar with the number line, right? So if I said this were 0, you would know that everything to the right is positive, and everything to the left would be, you guessed it, negative. So if it's one space to the left, it would be -1. 2 spaces would be -2. 3 spaces, -3. 4 spaces, -4. You get the idea. And it has these arrows because it goes on forever, right? It goes on to infinity. Now, if I gave you a number line that was missing some of these numbers, hopefully you would be able to fill in the blanks. So that is what the first couple questions are. Then I'm asking you to graph some numbers in your homework. So if I didn't have any numbers here, and I asked you to graph -3, you would have to show me where it was in relation. So it doesn't really matter which one you pick, right? So maybe you pick this one, but then you should label the other ones on the line so that it makes the most sense, right? Does that make sense? Now, what if I gave you like -24? Well, you're going to still pick a number, right? And then your however many lines are there, you're going to label them. And actually, I'm not sure you even have to do this on your thing. I think these questions might be blanked out, but I want you to know that you would just fill in the rest, right? You could start anywhere on this number line as long as you knew what came to the left and came to the right. Okay, that's all very important to know. All right, now the opposites of numbers. So if the number is positive, the opposite would be negative. For example, the opposite of 102 is -102. All right, so if the number is negative, the opposite would be what, guys? Positive. So example, the opposite of negative 78 is positive 78. But we don't show the plus sign with our positive numbers. Remember, we just assume that it's positive. Now, when some of these say what number is the opposite of negative 27, so if you have negative and you have a negative inside, well, this changes it to positive, but then the opposite of that would be negative. I know that's really silly. I don't know why they're having you do the opposite of a negative number. But remember, two negatives will make it positive, and then you have to do the opposite of that, okay? Finally, the absolute value. We show the absolute value with these absolute value bars. So if we're asking you the absolute value, we're asking you for the distance from 0. So up here, when I was talking about the number line, if it was one space from 0, it was still 1. That was the absolute value. The absolute value here is 1, but it's negative 1 since it's to the left. Now, if we have like a negative 24 out here, the distance from 0 is 24, right? So this can never be negative. Can never be negative. So if I asked you the absolute value of negative 24, you would be telling me the positive value of that, right? The distance from 0. So a distance cannot be negative. So the absolute value of negative 24 is 24. Oh man, I just looked over and noticed that that's one of your problems. So the absolute value of 72 on the number line will be like way over here, right? It's still 72 places from 0. Okay, so if I asked you the absolute value of negative 1,278, it would simply be 1,278, the distance of that number from 0 on the number line. Alright guys, so let's make sure we are staying organized this marking period. Remember, it's a fresh start for your grades, so stay on top of it. There's a quick form to check your understanding, and then you're going to complete the teacher-made link. Today you will not have to show work, okay? All right, have a great Monday. Let's start this marking period strong.